This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tonya Lead.
Welcome to IA Forward. Shane, I think we don't get controversial enough on this podcast, and I think it's time that we go there. What do you think?
I'm always up for some controversy. Why not?
So let's talk about our insurance regulators, and maybe let's talk about, just for fun, is it better if they're elected or appointed? Let's start there and see where we go.
So you basically want us to publicly talk about the people who regulate our industry. You remember that we're still in business. We're not just doing podcasts professionally. You understand that we still write insurance, and you want us to talk about the people who regulate us. Is that what you're asking me to do?
That's what I'm asking you to do. And, if they cancel us, then we'll go from there. Do we need to check in with our legal department before we go there, or?
No, we're going to claim First Amendment stuff here and free speech and the right to have debate. One of the things that makes our country so great. I think it's a great topic, and we'll get to the elected versus appointed in just a minute. But, I'll start out with regulation in our industry is good. That good regulation serves an incredible purpose and is necessary. It holds both distribution and product and underwriting, and there's consumer protections, and it holds all the pieces of the puzzle accountable, and I think that's a good thing. So I'll start out there, sounding a little bit like a politician myself, but it is good, and I really firmly believe that. But I know that some states have elected insurance commissioners and some states have appointed insurance commissioners, and it's worth noting that I recognize that even the appointed commissioners are generally appointed by an elected governor. So there is a political environment to all. It's just a matter of, are decisions being made that are going to affect an election campaign or an election season, or are they being made for what's healthy and right, balanced, consumer protection versus the ability for insurance companies to make a profit and stay in business and want to do business in the state and have a healthy business environment? I think that is a really, really incredible balancing act that is put on our insurance commissioners in various states. Growing up in Louisiana,
I think about the fact that at 18 years old, I was voting for our insurance commissioner. Now, I knew nothing about insurance. I didn't know the difference in anything that I was doing. I had no clue, except I just did whatever my agent told me to do, and they had my credit card, and every month they debited it. That's all I knew about insurance. And I am electing the commissioner, the person that is in charge of all this. That's insane. So while I'm a real believer in free and open elections, but I think about this, and I would put all of my time in figuring out what was going on with the issues, but I didn't even know what I was supposed to be researching for insurance commissioner the way I do now.
I think there's a great point there in educating our young people on their opportunity to elect and to have a say, and that we can never allow our country to go down this path of my vote doesn't matter. Why should I vote? Every citizen has the right to vote, and I think you should use that. My issue is not every regulator is elected. My concern is the election process around the insurance commissioner being the regulator and being swayed one direction or the other, because they really have an incredibly difficult and complicated job to balance between consumer protection and a healthy business environment. And I think that we have history in Louisiana where we had several insurance commissioners before the most recent one or two that ended up in jail and ended up taking money and bribes and ended up in a really, really bad situation in the marketplace, and the marketplace paid for that, and have had a very stable commissioner for several years and experienced a really healthy insurance climate for a coastal small state. This is the reality of Louisiana. There's not a lot of places to spread the risk. It's a Gulf Coast state. There's hurricanes. There's freezing issues in the northern part of the state. There's all kinds of stuff that happen there outside of normal risk. For Donilon to have kept the state in really good place over the years and really had a healthy environment with the legislature, now it's kind of gone off the the rails, and now they're trying to get it right, and they're making good plays to get it back where it needs to go. And so there's one major piece that we don't really talk about, and that is he decided not to run for re-election. Now he's making decisions and he's able to do things without the concern of, I have to figure out how to get elected again. On the flip side of that, we have the complete disaster that's going on in California right now, and we just saw State Farm announces they're not going to take on any new homeowner policies, and Allstate announces that they had stopped taking new business policies as well. And we've got a commissioner there that I think has not approved a rate increase since 2020. You can't do that. It's not healthy for the business environment. And I think the insurance companies are backed into a corner and they're having to make some very, very difficult decisions. I think our regulating bodies have to understand the full picture here. And unfortunately, California is another elected insurance commissioner situation. And if you're potentially playing for votes, I'm not saying that's what he's doing or isn't doing, but if you're doing that, then you're going to disrupt the system, and the system works. So many states do very, very well with this. And so I think that there's just this concern and this reality of, well, which way is best? Is it elected or is it appointed? And is there some way that one over the other tends to provide a business environment that protects consumers and businesses at the same time, but also is very healthy for the insurance industry to provide coverage for risk?
Do you think it's important that an elected or an appointed insurance commissioner has worked in the insurance industry? I know that sounds crazy, but when you look at the biographies of most of our commissioners, they've served as attorneys or they've served as chief of staffs for different political organizations, but you don't see a lot of insurance knowledge, insurance history being within the industry itself.
This is a fantastic point here. And the really good thing about debate and what should be healthy debate is recognizing the pros and the cons. Listen to the other side. It's really important to understand that there's another side to that argument and have perspective and be able to listen. What you're bringing up is a great point. In so many of the appointed commissioner states, Texas being one of those, you have individuals that are appointed by the governor from some walk of life that has nothing to do with the insurance industry. That is also a bad thing. And I agree with you that our insurance commissioners should have a background in insurance. They should understand the industry. They should understand the ins and outs. Yes, they have a primary job of protecting consumers, regulating the insurance industry. But part of regulation is keeping it healthy. I had a conversation with a compliance attorney one time that I thought was extremely wise beyond her years. She made a comment of, our job, Mr. Tatum, is not to hurt the good guys. Our job is to get the bad guys off the street. And I thought that was such an incredible perspective from a regulator. They didn't want to hurt good business. They understand that the economy needs the industry, and they don't want to hurt insurance people. They want the marketplace to be healthy. Good regulators do. They just want to make sure that they are getting the bad guys off the street so that they're protecting consumers and consumers aren't getting duped. That perspective for me says a lot. I think that perspective comes first and foremost from someone who's been inside the industry. And if you've been a chief of staff, if you've been a career politician, if you've really done nothing in the industry and all of a sudden you find yourself appointed for the insurance commissioner position, then that's not good for your state. And that is where the appointed commissioner process can go just as far off the rails as the elected commissioner process.
A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to listen to a presentation by the president and CEO of the III, and hearing his knowledge and the way that his organization takes statistics and then tells the story to our lobbyists, tells the story to our commissioners, to our legislators. It was absolutely fascinating to me. And I'm such a geek. I could have listened to him talk for hours. But I think sometimes we forget that there are organizations like the III that are in place to help us and that step in and try to help those commissioners see our side of things. And if you're not familiar with the III, take some time and get familiar with what they do and how they do it, because it's a side of our industry that I was really unfamiliar with, but have since then kind of sort of become this real obsessed fangirl of.
So I'm going to pull a Tonya on Tonya. So III stands for the Insurance Information Institute, and I concur with everything she's saying. It's a really great resource within our industry. Those guys, the Big I, the PIA, the organizations that lobby and work with our state regulators and commissioner, they are putting forth our needs as an industry. And I read an article from one of the organizations out in California kind of about the situation. It really unveils the situation in California that you're not going to hear on CNN or Fox News or some of the mainstream media. You're going to hear all these things that sort of make it feel like the big bad insurance company is just leaving us high and dry. Once you get into the perspective of the insurance associations and you really get down into the weeds here, then you discover that the commissioner hasn't approved a rate increase since 2020. Then you realize that we have eliminated virtually all controlled burns and that it really isn't that much climate change. It's forest management. It's not using appropriate wildfire management tactics because logging's bad or burning's bad or all these other things. You're not going to read that on the Fox News article. That's part of the other side of the debate. That's what we have to stop doing. We have to stop slanting all the debate. We have to have both sides of this thing. We have to see the big picture. And I'm announcing my candidacy for the 2024 presidential run. I'm kidding.
Have you talked with Julie about this? Because I don't think she wants to hear that many words from you.
She does not. We have to get better. We have to quit polarizing everything. And insurance is front and center. Our industry is so important, such a backstop to businesses being created and businesses being developed and people buying homes and cars and all these assets that need to be insured. But we're stuck in a political circle. And that's my call to the insurance commissioners. Be the regulator. Don't be the politician. And understand that the industry and the consumer both need you to be balanced. They both need you to see all the different perspectives. And whether it's elected in this state or appointed in that state, it really shouldn't matter. Although I seem to slant to preferring the appointed just because I just think that that's a little better. But again, it's not 100% better. I recognize there are downfalls to both sides.
We have a brand new insurance commissioner in the state of Florida, and I cannot imagine inheriting the mess that we have down here, right? And of course, we just had some big legislative changes that went into effect, which created thousands of lawsuits that were filed right before those new laws went into effect. And so seeing what's going to happen down here is going to be very, very interesting. But our new commissioner, Yaworski, when I look at his background, we're looking at the Florida gaming control. We're looking at some things like that. And I'm just like, but do you really know what's going on as far as in the insurance world? Or are you just kind of more looking at things from a legal and fiscal perspective? With the lawsuits that happen in Florida, maybe Governor DeSantis appointed him specifically because of our legal challenges here. I don't know, but I think that things in Florida are going to be really interesting to watch over the next few months and the next few years.
I agree. And I saw another article just in the last day or two about, Florida can learn from Louisiana's situation and how they're going about addressing it. And so I agree with that. I think that's good. Louisiana's bringing competition back to the market. Yes, there are some litigation issues to be solved at the legislature and crazy lawsuit abuse stuff, but there's also the competitive marketplace that has to exist. And I am a free market guy, right? And I think that the marketplace will take care of itself, so to speak, from a pricing standpoint. I think that we spend so much time on the regulation side dealing with pricing. A lot of states that are having success have gone to file and use. In other words, there's not necessarily an approval. There's just the, wait a minute, you can't do that. And so if I don't hear from someone, I use it, I go. That type of method is really good. What you have in, say, California is you have request and you can't do anything until you hear back from the commissioner. So you can't move forward. You're stuck. It's more of a dictator state in terms of the insurance side of things, with the insurance commissioner and regulatory body going, we have to approve every little thing you do. I do not think that's healthy in the free market world. I do not think that that allows for healthy competition. And I think pricing will take care of itself in a free market. I think that what you want to do is you want to create an environment in your state that encourages people to come in and conduct business, come in and do business. And the way you have to do that is you have to make it possible for those insurance companies to earn a profit. Insurance companies are very smart. They will not lose money indefinitely. At the same time, if they're healthy and they're competing in a healthy free market environment, they will hold each other accountable. There's too much investment money that gets poured into our industry. If the large national carriers come into your state and they could collude together and they could all raise prices, and number one, that's illegal. Number two, if they did that and got away with it, guess what? There's so much investment interest in the insurance industry because of its long-term return on investment and its return on equity that they won't be able to do that forever. They won't just be able to raise prices indefinitely forever and ever because someone will come in and be more competitive and take market share. That's what happens in this beautiful thing called free market.
It's amazing to me to read like my neighborhood Facebook group or even conversations that you have with friends over dinner, that people saying things like, well, when is the government going to step in? You know, because rates in Florida are through the roof. We know this. If we're in the industry at all, we know the craziness that is Florida, California, and the state of Louisiana. But it fascinates me that people make the assumption that the government stepping in, and I use air quotes around that, but that the government stepping in is the answer, where really and truly the government stepping away and allowing free market to happen is really probably closer to the answer that the consumer is looking for.
I would love for the government to lean in, not step in. Maybe that's just the way I would picture it in my brain, and recruit and bring companies to the state and say, this is how I'm going to help you be a healthy business. We need you here. We need to come down, as we would say in the South, off our high horse. We need to kill the pissing matches. We need to understand that we need both sides. Regulators need healthy businesses. Healthy businesses need good regulators because we need to get the bad businesses out. But we've reached this point in society, and just like you're saying, where there is a segment of society that really believes that the government should step in, not lean in, and fix my problem. They can't. You don't want the National Flood Insurance Program to become the National Home or Property Insurance Program. You do not want that. It's a taxpayer nightmare. It can't be funded. That's not what we need. What we need is a healthy free market in each state, even catastrophe-prone states like Florida, even catastrophe-prone states like California. We need this to be a healthy environment, and the free market will take care of that pricing piece. There's other things that we have to do on the mitigating risk and catastrophe side. I am not going to get into the climate change argument, but we can't bring climate change as a reason and not talk about the fact that we don't allow prescribed burns in overdeveloped areas. So if we're going to cite wildfire risk as our reason or climate change as our reason, we have to cite that what you're really talking about is you're talking about the inability for people to do their job and manage the wildfire risk. That is not a climate issue. That is a development issue.
25 years ago, I can remember my dad talking about California making these decisions about not using control burns and the long-term challenges that was going to cause. And he was really upset, and he's brought it up, over the last 2 decades or so. And now I see, okay, as always, my father was right, but this was something that people that were in that logging industry, people that were in the forestry industry, people that had that perspective realized that this was going to happen, that a lot of this could have been prevented if both sides would have maybe listened to each other and both sides would have communicated a little bit better and understood what was being said, rather than just saying, hey, I'm not going to listen to you, you're not going to listen to me, and this is what it's going to be.
Timber is a huge part of our economy in East Texas. Therefore, I have a lot of friends who are in forestry and logging and various types of businesses that are tied to timber. I have seen firsthand that the individuals and the companies, because of healthy regulation, not over-regulation, but healthy regulation, and because they are who they are and they're really good people, they're more concerned about our timber environment. They're more concerned about our land than anyone else out there. If you want to know who cares more, it's the folks that are being regulated against. It's the people that are being so-called blacklisted or put into this big bad group of bad businesses and bad industries. And that is not at all who the problem is. Those individuals in the timber management, forest management, the big timber companies, they take care of our earth more than anybody else does. You will not see them doing something that is going to hurt our planet. They just will not do it. They care more for it because their business and their own beliefs depend on that. They are just dependent on being a good steward of the land. That is the miss, because we're not listening to both sides. The people who are like big bad timber companies, big bad loggers, they're tearing down our forest. No, they're managing our forest. And if you're going to develop and build houses and build ski resorts and build all kinds of other things inside all these timber regions, then you need good timber companies to manage the forest, or guess what? Stuff burns up and insurance companies say we can't do business in your state anymore. So your father is 100% right. We are reaping what we sowed from some really bad decisions decades ago, and we have to right that course. But let's remember, what is insurance? Insurance is an infinite game business. It's a long-term industry business. When you make those decisions, you're not driving a Ferrari and you can just do a U-turn. You're not even driving the Titanic. You're driving the Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Seas, which is like however many times bigger than the Titanic. You don't just turn. You don't just make a U-turn and everything's fine. You have to do things, and it takes time for those things to actually take hold and actually work. And that's what it is. Like, we're seeing the fallout of decades ago decisions, and we have to do something about that. We have to fix that. And I think it starts with listening to both sides and understanding the healthy debate environment, and understanding that it's not about just my opinion should be the opinion we go with. I think that's where we're at, and free market wins. I'm always going to believe that.
Going back to the original question of should our regulators be elected or appointed, do you think it's better that we're allowing governors to appoint people, or should our voters, who probably don't have the knowledge of even what the insurance commissioner is doing, should those regulators be elected?
My opinion is that we should have appointed commissioners. It's a particular regulator that I believe should not be an elected official. It should be an appointed commissioner. Understanding that the appointing body, appointing person is an elected official. The governor appoints the insurance commissioner in most states, that there is an appointed commissioner. And so there is an indirect election, but I think we have to hold our governors accountable in that case to appoint insurance commissioners that know something about the insurance industry. We don't need to be appointing our best buddy from our fraternity back in college that has been running a grocery store chain, and you are giving them a retirement gig. That is not what we need to be doing at the governor level. We do not need to be appointing people who are non-insurance people. So I'm going to lean to the appointed decision, the appointment side, but I do have an asterisk by that says we need to hold the governors accountable to appoint the right people.
I'm going to leave us today with this quote from Kobe Bryant. The most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now, or learn more at IAForward.com.